We arrived at the house already with the feeling that it was bigger than it looked from the outside. It wasn't a mansion, nor anything close to that, but it had too many hallways, rooms that didn't seem to lead anywhere, and doors that opened into empty spaces. The silence gathered in the rooms as if the house were always waiting for something. If someone spoke too loudly, the echo would take over the space and return the voice slightly different. Just in that first room, which I assumed was the living room, there were already nearly 24 people. People scattered around, drink in hand, overlapping conversations. After a few minutes trying to locate everyone, he finally appeared. "I'm glad you came," he said, opening a sincere smile. "Nice clothes, man." Reich looked around. "I feel like I'm in a rich guy's house." He laughed, a little awkwardly. "I have to be well dressed to be the host, according to my wife." "I have to say this place is incredible, Hector," I said. "Huge. It even took me a while to find you." "This only exists because of my mother," he replied quickly. "You know, Lena always wanted a big house. Now she wants a big family too. My mother made that arrangement easier. It was always like that." Since we were kids, Hector never took credit for himself. For a long time I admired that, but maybe it was exactly what bothered me now. The way everything seemed to have fallen into place without visible effort. The party went on freely. Too much drinking, too little conversation. At some point when I realized it, some people were already passed out around the house, sleeping on the couch, sitting outside, others with empty stares, leaning against the walls. Reich and I were still on our feet, wandering aimlessly, opening doors, laughing at things that weren't funny at all. He was the one who found the room. A forgotten space, full of stacked boxes, furniture covered with old stained sheets, with that strong smell that every old house seems unable to hide. And it was there that we found it. "Holy shit!" Reich stepped closer. "Look at this." I moved closer and saw Reich standing in front of a mirror, striking bodybuilder poses, trying to show off those slender arms, making exaggerated faces. After getting distracted for a while by his stupidity and laughing, I turned my attention to the mirror. It was large, heavy, with a finish that revealed its age, yet in impeccable condition. "This most definitely doesn't belong to Mrs. Eleonora," Reich said, running his hand along the mirror's frame over the gold-raised details. Reich remained frozen in front of the mirror. Then he smiled and slowly turned toward me. "I'm really drunk, right?" He pointed at the mirror. "Don't you think it took too long to do that?" "To do what?" "Wave. You didn't even wave. So yes, you're very drunk." We laughed a little more and headed toward the kitchen because we needed water. Before leaving, I looked at the mirror one more time. It was beautiful, but it was just a mirror. Days later, Reich called me overly excited. He said he had finally been called in for that meeting with the boss, the promotion maybe. He was nervous, thrilled, talking too fast. "I can tell you're really excited, Reich. Congratulations. Wait for the meeting and remember to be firm." "Yes, of course." He paused for a moment. "Reich?" I asked. "Are you okay? Do you want to say anything else?" "Nothing. Sorry, I lost my train of thought." He made a short pause. "I'll update you soon. Let's stop by Hector's while we can still visit him for a drink." "Sure." He brushed it off and hung up right after. I've known Reich for a long time, but I'd never seen him that restless. It had also been years waiting for that promotion. I took the opportunity to check my emails. I found out I hadn't passed the selection process I had been following for months, and that my vacation request wouldn't be approved for the expected date because I would need to cover my boss's absence, who, once again, would be taking vacation during the same period as me. The following week, Reich didn't call me. I was already expecting that. I imagined he had been promoted after the meeting with the boss and would be busy and enjoying the moment. Even so, I stayed attentive and sent him a message asking about it. 2 days later, I received a short message. "Everything went well, I'll tell you later." At first, I found it strange. He's usually more talkative, but I congratulated him, saying I was happy and that it was well-deserved, and that we needed to celebrate. At that same moment, it showed that he had seen the message. He even started typing something for a while and then stopped, leaving me without a response. As the days went by, I had to dive deep into my work because of some requests from my boss, who also introduced me to a new employee who would be doing the same job as me, a younger, well-dressed guy. At lunch, I sat at my desk, and to change the course of my day, I received a message. "Let's go to Hector's today. I'll pick you up at work." Reich picked me up in a black car, very elegant. It looked new. "What's this?" I asked. "The company lent it to me because I had to go to another city to finalize and get familiar with my new responsibilities. I was promoted." I shook Reich's hand and then gave him a hug. "I told you it was yours. Congratulations again." "Thanks." In the car, Reich kept looking at himself in the rearview mirror, adjusting his appearance. We headed to Hector's, and he started telling me everything from the day of the meeting until now, and how his journey had been exhausting but rewarding. We arrived a little too early. Hector wasn't home yet, only Lena and her friends, enjoying the outdoor area of the house. We were about to leave and come back later, but she touched my shoulder and insisted we come in. We stayed and talked a lot about Hector, our friendship, and everything we could. Lena laughed a lot and kept asking more questions, occasionally touching my arm. I stood up and went to the bathroom. When I came out, Reich was at the door. "Man, where's Hector?" Reich asked. "What the hell was that with Lena?" "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb. She barely even looks at us. Hector's not here and she's all touchy with you." "It's the alcohol, man. Don't think nonsense." "But you were uncomfortable." "Yes, it was weird. He's been disappearing too. I don't know, he's different. Honestly, I thought he'd get here much earlier and he's kind of absent." Walking down the hallway, Reich looked at a spot and stopped. I turned back and looked at him. Without thinking, he walked into a room. I followed him and we ended up in that messy space. And there was the mirror, uncovered, yet intact. No dust, nothing seemed to affect it. Reich kept staring at the mirror and moved as if he were going to touch it. But I held him back. I ended up bumping into it, but it was far too heavy to move. "What the hell is this, Reich?" "Man, I'm going to tell you, but listen to everything before you judge." My eyes almost rolled at the comment, but I gave him the attention he asked for. "This mirror, there's something hidden." "No, you idiot. Something like a force, like magical, supernatural?" "Yes." I held myself back, but before I could respond, he explained that he had received the call from his boss at a completely unusual hour, and that was when he saw the mirror wave at him. That same day, he dreamed about the mirror and felt drawn to it, and at that moment everything started lining up. The explanation took some time. After that, he looked at me. "You should try it. If I didn't know you, I'd say you're using drugs." We started laughing, but quickly stopped when we heard a heated conversation between Hector and Lena. We stood still. For a moment, I even held my breath. The argument kept escalating, Hector's voice growing louder while Lena's voice became more and more shaky. Finally, they moved away. "I think we should leave," Reich said. We left the room quietly, in silence. Reich headed toward the bathroom, and I decided to go to the front of the house. I noticed Hector upstairs. He looked at me and just shook his head. I tried to go up to talk to him, but as I approached, he raised his hand. "Sorry, man. We'll talk later." Hector closed the bedroom door. I noticed a notification on my phone and answered it by reflex. It was my boss, clearly on a busy street or at a bar, enjoying his vacation. I took a deep breath as he sent me a list of things he wanted me to do today. Even after I informed him that I wasn't home, he insisted. I pretended I would do it, took another deep breath, and hung up the phone. I looked to the side and saw a large framed photo of Hector and Lena on one of his trips sitting in front of a beach. I stared at the picture, and for a moment, I saw my reflection, and what startled me was that for a moment, I thought it had taken a step forward. I took a step back and leaned against the railing. I looked at my phone again, and 20 minutes had passed since my boss had called. I looked at the picture and went down to the kitchen. I went to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and headed outside. When I reached the outdoor area, I couldn't help but notice Lena sitting there with her hands covering her face. I tried to move away, but she noticed me, and our eyes met, swollen from crying, and I felt obligated to approach. I handed her the bottle of water. She thanked me with a gesture, and drank a lot of water all at once. That bottle wasn't for me, was it? No. We laughed at the situation. I drank a lot and wanted some water to level myself out a bit. You can drink the rest. She handed me the bottle and I drank what was left. I can grab more. Do you want some? I stood up quickly, but she held me back and ended up grabbing my hand. No, please. Stay there. Sure. I sat facing her and we stayed silent for a while. Your friend can be difficult sometimes. He doesn't mean any harm. She continued complaining about the lack of attention and the occasional rudeness coming from Hector. I just listened, silent, motionless for I don't know how long. From time to time, I found an opening for a small comment, because she looked at me as if searching for some opinion of mine. I don't know what I said that made her mood change so much, but from a monologue we turned into a conversation. We flowed very well talking. She had a taste for similar movies, and we talked about new ones currently in theaters that I'd ended up seeing alone, and she seemed surprised. Why alone? You could always... Lena? Hector appeared wearing only shorts. He looked at me, seeming calmer. With us whenever you want, just let us know and we'll go. She stood up and I understood the cue. This time it was different. For the first time, she gave me a quick goodbye hug and thanked me for the time, then went back toward Hector, who kissed her and waved as they walked into the house. I returned to my apartment late. An envelope stuck to the door caught my attention. Late rent notice. I stared at the paper for a few seconds as if it might explain something beyond the obvious. I went inside, left the keys on the table, and sat down. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. 6 missed calls, messages from work, my boss asking about the report I hadn't sent. He demanded urgency, demanded explanations, demanded commitment. I took a deep breath. I opened one of the messages and started typing a response. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted it. I stood up, went to the kitchen, grabbed a beer, and went back to the living room. The television was on without sound. I wasn't watching anything. At some point, the apartment became too quiet. I looked around as if expecting to find someone there. Nothing. I walked down the hallway and stopped in front of the bathroom mirror. It was the same as always. Simple frame, glass slightly stained at the bottom. I stepped closer just to wash my face. That was when I had the impression that my reflection took a moment longer to lean in with me. Just an instant. I blinked, moved my head from side to side. It followed me. Normal. I stared at myself for too long. My beard was fuller than I remembered, my eyes more sunken. I touched my own face, and the reflection repeated the gesture, maybe a second later. Maybe not. I pressed the tips of my fingers against the glass. Nothing happened. But the feeling was strange. Not fear. Not shock. It was as if the air were denser there, as if I were on the wrong side of something I couldn't define. I took a deep breath and pulled my hand away. My phone started vibrating again in the living room. I went there and answered it. My boss was speaking too loudly, demanding explanations, saying he needed the report that night. While he talked, I stared at the dark television screen. I could see my reflection layered over the frozen images. For a moment, I had the impression that the mouth in the reflection moved at a different rhythm than mine. Today is Saturday, I replied, calmer than I imagined I could be. I'll handle it on Monday. There was silence on the other end. He agreed. Hung up. I kept staring at the black screen. There, my reflection seemed more confident, straighter, less tired. I ran a hand through my hair. The reflection repeated it. But there was something in the eyes I didn't recognize. I went to the bedroom and lay down. Sleep came too quickly. I dreamed I was walking down a long hallway. The walls were covered with empty frames. At the end of the hallway there was a single mirror, large, old, like the one in Hector's house. I knew I shouldn't approach it. I approached it. In the reflection, I wasn't alone. I couldn't make out the face beside me, but I knew it occupied a space that wasn't mine. I woke up with my heart racing. The bathroom light was still on. I got up slowly and went there. The mirror looked ordinary. I stepped closer again, moved my head. It followed. I smiled, just to test it. The reflection took an instant, and in that minimal interval, I had the feeling that it smiled before I did. I placed my hand on the glass. This time, the touch didn't feel cold. I closed my eyes. I didn't feel fear. I felt relief, as if I were finally where I was supposed to be. When I opened my eyes again, my reflection was perfectly synchronized, but something was different in the apartment. The furniture seemed slightly out of place. The silence wasn't the same. The phone on the table had no notifications. I went to the window. Outside, I saw a building I didn't completely recognize. It looked like mine, but too organized. I heard a voice calling me, familiar, but in my house that wouldn't make sense. I touched my own face again. It responded at the exact same instant. No delay. And that was when I realized it wasn't the reflection that had changed. It was the side I was on.